afternoon, and thanks for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. It said, forewarned is forearmed, and when it comes to consumer fraud, it's not only good advice, it's the only advice that you need to make sure you don't get taken advantage of. And yet, even the most diligent can get caught short. Otherwise, we wouldn't be reporting on scams. Charity Clark is Vermont's Attorney General. She's joining me today to talk about a recent list of top 10 scams for 2023. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, everyone thinks they're prepared for scams, but sometimes everyone has a moment of weakness and that's how they slip through the cracks. Does that ever happen to you?
Well, no, but I am very, very careful because I'm always talking about scams and trying to educate Vermonters to protect them. And so, you know, these pieces of advice are always fresh in my mind.
Absolutely. If anyone's prepared, it's
yes.
gotta be you. And a lot of the times the instinct is if you see something, act instantly. You see family members in danger or your computer has a virus, to respond right away. Is it the best advice to just take a second?
Yes. So I have what I call like the red flag formula. And if you see this combination, chances are it's a scam. The first is you don't know the person or you can't verify they are who they say they are. They're asking you for money and there's this urgency. And the urgency is them spiking your emotional response. So you're not thinking, you're feeling. And the thing about the emotions, it could be excitement, like, ooh, I'm getting a package and click on the link. No, just slow down. It could be concern or fear for a loved one who supposedly is injured or needs money. You know, all of these tricks that they play to spike your emotional response to try to steal your money are classic scams.
All right, so let's jump into the number one
Sure.
scam, which is computer tech support. Can you
Yes.
tell me what an example of that looks like?
Yes, so computer tech support scam, this is definitely one that scares me. I would fall for this, is when you are on your computer and this is a classic example. There's a few forms this could take, but a pop-up will come up and say, ooh, you have a virus, don't worry, I can help you. I'm insert legitimate company here. They're not the legitimate company, they're a scammer. Just give me remote access to your computer. And once they're in, they can, access your web browsers, see where your bank accounts are, transfer money. I mean, it's so horrifying to even describe, but we literally have heard from consumers who said they watched in horror as the person had taken control over the computer and was transferring money from their bank to the scammer's account. It is definitely number one. It's by far the most common complaint we receive. It's very effective, unfortunately. So I always say, when I have a problem with my home computer, I bring it to a home repair place. I don't allow anyone to access my computer remotely because I'm so afraid of this scam, which is we get so many complaints about every year.
Yeah, that's great advice. Take it to an expert
Yes.
instead of, yeah. And how about phishing? That's number two. And of course, we're talking phishing with a PH
Yes.
in this case.
Well, this number two, this is largely banks or financial entities. So what they're trying to do, that's the facade that they're pretending to be a bank. But what they're trying to do is get information from you. So social security number is a classic. Once they have your social security number and your name, well, they can apply for credit cards and all sorts of other accounts, or find other ways to steal money from you by stealing your identity. So this is a kind of catch-all for all the different kinds of phishing that we get that are in that kind of context.
Okay, and another one is a law enforcement imposter.
Yes.
What does that look like?
Well, this is a classic where your emotional response is spiked. So someone calls and says they're a sheriff or some other law enforcement personnel, and they're coming to arrest you unless you pay this money because you have an outstanding fine or something that you forgot to pay. And the person knows they don't have an outstanding fine, but they're thinking, oh, this would be terrible. They're going to come to my house and upset my family, and I'll just pay the money. This is also, we get this a very common scam, but I would say the imposter concept is very popular with scammers. So they're pretending to be someone they're not, thereby tricking you, spiking your emotional response, gaining your trust. So the imposter situation is just always prevalent in our top 10 list.
Okay, and I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but speaking of imposters, is there something you can do to maybe verify somebody is who they say they are?
Well, we always say that people should take steps in advance. So especially with the law enforcement, the scenario that the scammer that I've just described is never what's going to happen with a real law enforcement agent. But yes, always you can reach out to our consumer assistance program. It's 1-800-649-2424. We absolutely, if you're concerned, if you even have like a slight hint that there's something off here, just call the number and we can support you and kind of walk you through it. I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm such an expert at spotting a scam. I've helped family members who've been like, look, I want to adopt this puppy. And I'm like, this is a scam. I mean, I can see them a mile away. And our consumer experts at the Consumer Assistance Program are incredibly helpful in that regard. But with regards to, there's another scam on the list, another imposter scam, the family emergency scam. And that's where, I'm sorry to jump around, but in that context, usually it looks like this. Someone is calling and saying, I'm your nephew, I'm your grandchild, and I'm in a foreign country, I got in trouble, I got arrested, there was a misunderstanding, whatever, and I need you to wire me money. And the person their emotions are spiked, they're worried and concerned, and they act before they have a moment to think about it. So what we always tell people is it's good to have a plan in advance with your family members to say, a code word, or just talk about it in advance, or say, I'm never going to call you grandma and say, don't call mom, So just to have those conversations in advance so that if you get that call, you know that there's something fishy because they're not doing what you had agreed in advance that you would do if this emergency like this had arisen.
And is that the same thing as spoofing?
No, spoofing is usually we talk about that in the context of a fake phone number. So someone is pretending to be someone they're not on the phone. So a scam that I've been getting the past few months is it will be a number I don't recognize, an 802 number, and it will say nonprofit. So they've somehow, figured out a way so that my phone has a caller ID that just says the strange and vague nonprofit. And I'm like, nope, it's the Attorney General. You're calling. I can spot a scam a mile away. I don't even answer the phone. I just let it go to voicemail. And funny enough, that nonprofit never seems to want to leave a message. so I know they're a scam. That's spoofing, when they're pretending to be someone they're not on the phone.
Okay, and it sounds like they'll like add something to seem more credible, like saying nonprofit.
Yeah, if they can, they absolutely. And the 802 is a classic. So they're not in the 802, folks. They're overseas most likely, and yet they're using 802 so that they can engender a sense of trust and trick you into thinking they're your neighbor or a town next door or something, someone legitimate who's calling you.
Yeah, your doctor or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and actually, speaking of medicine a little more, another kind of phishing, of course, is Medicare card phishing.
Yes. This is very prevalent. One thing that we see a lot is elders in Vermont are targeted. And one of the reasons why is because they're perceived as being less tech savvy, more vulnerable, but also they tend to be more likely to be isolated and lonely. And that is a classic way to unfortunately take advantage of that loneliness to try to gain someone's trust and attention. And the Medicare phishing scam is they're trying to get you to give them your Medicare card number, or sometimes your Social Security number, other kind of related information that they can then use to steal money from you or steal your identity.
And we have a couple more to go through in a minute, but I just want to, if this happens to you, should I be embarrassed or should I just reach out?
Oh, reach out. This is all we do all day long. At the Consumer Assistance Program, we've seen it all, we've experienced it all. Absolutely no shame. This can happen and does happen to all kinds of people, educated people, doctors, unsophisticated people too. But I mean, everyone has been targeted, and we all have emotions. And so, that's really the kind of the trigger is when you're not in your head, you're in your heart, and you make these decisions quickly. So we always say reach out so that we can kind of slow down and support you in thinking about, is this really legitimate? Is this really something you want to do? Slowing down is great advice always. If you just have that little voice in your head saying, I don't know if this is right, I don't know if this is legitimate, just taking a deep breath and slowing down is a great place to start.
And you talked about when your emotions are heightened, and we've maybe talked about they're heightened in a bad way, but how about if you win a sweepstakes or lottery? That's another one on the list.
And it's always on the list. That's always up there. So the thing is we've all seen this, but if you win some sweepstakes, they're gonna come to your house or FedEx. It's gonna be a very official action that they do, because they want to get credit and brag about it. So it's not going to be this scammy approach. So the way that scam works is they say, oh, you won the sweepstakes, you just have to give us money first. I can't remember what the concept is. I'm sure it varies from fake sweepstakes to fake sweepstakes. But the idea is like you have to give us money for, I don't know if it's like delivery or like a deposit situation. So if you win the sweepstakes, they don't want to make you give them money. They want to get the credit for, yay, you won the sweepstakes, and have all these good feelings about winning the sweepstakes. So keep that in mind. No one's going to call you and ask you for money if you won the sweepstakes. That's not how sweepstakes works.
You don't always have to spend money to make money.
That's right.
So to speak.
Yeah, not with the sweepstakes.
And let's talk a little bit about reward credit. Can you tell me about that scam?
Yes, reward credit is a new scam for us that made the list, and we got a lot of reports of these. So we got 132 reported scam reports for the rewards credit. That tends to be in the form of an email, and the email will say, oh, you have accumulated these rewards through and it'll be some legitimate company that they're spoofing and they're faking, and you just have to click here. To get through the process of getting your credits. Well, once you click, it could either be a virus like malware that you're clicking on, and so they can invade your computer, or they're trying to fish for information about you so they can steal your identity.
All right, and you talked about this just a little bit earlier, but who's making these scam calls? Who's sending these emails? Is it your next door neighbor?
No, it's certainly not, unfortunately. We always see scams are overseas. And that's why you always hear me talking about scams, because our best tool at fighting scams is to talk about it, educate, tell each other, and really be fighting scams together in that way.
All right, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
And if you've experienced any of the scams we've talked about today, call the Consumer Assistance Program. Their contact information is on your screen. Thanks to WCX and the crew who helps make this program possible. Thank you for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. Have a good one.